All right, in this video, I'm going to be telling you guys about the reason why I stayed back in Germany, after I completed my master's degree. If you go onto YouTube, you might have seen videos of people talking about the fact that they left Germany after they studied. They came here for a master's degree and they did do it. And after the program, they tried to get a job. For some people, it wasn't possible, so they had to leave. While for others, they just felt like, man, it was a hassle to kind of learn the language, and they felt like they wanted to take their hustle somewhere else, perhaps to Canada, to the US, to the United Kingdom, where it would have been easier for them to actually thrive, given the fact that they didn't have to, fight with the language. And for some other persons, they kind of left because, yes, funny enough, some people did complain about the fact that the weather just was something they couldn't manage. It was kind of telling on their mood. Today they are happy because it's sunny, and in the next hour it's already kind of very cold, or there were so many reasons that people gave why they just left. So when I saw these videos, I felt like since I stayed back in Germany after my master's degree, it would be a good video to kind of make, to share my experience. Perhaps there might be somebody out there that might find it informative and even help you to reconsider. You do not know what to do. Perhaps you are thinking, I want to leave Germany, I want to go back to my country, I want to go elsewhere, because there's this thing, it always appears greener on the other side. You might just be at that stage of your life right now. Perhaps my experience might just give you some other perspective, perhaps to make you have a rethink, or even to solidify your decision to leave. Like I said, I came here 2011. I came here actually for a master's program, sustainable resource management, at the Technical University of Munich. It was a decent program. It was a program that was held in English. When I was coming to Germany, I had absolutely no idea what I was, coming to face. Like most of you guys, I also went onto YouTube to try to search one or two things. I saw a lot of beautiful things about Germany at the time. That yes, it's a very, technologically advanced country. There are opportunities to work. There are just opportunities to do a lot of research even after your master's program. That yes, there were PhD opportunities at the time. I did read through all these things, and then long story short, I came, started my master's program. I was faced with the reality of actually living in Germany. Of course, true to what a lot of the videos said at the time, Germany is a very technologically advanced country. Technology here was at its peak. The transport system, the traffic system, everything was pretty much top notch, because I was studying at the time in Munich, and Munich is a kind of a very highly developed city. The world's best companies actually have offices there in Munich, so you just can expect that it was going to be a beautiful city. And Munich in itself, a very beautiful city, I must say. So I did complete my studies. It was a 2-year master's program. At the end of the day, I did complete this program in 3 years, because you know how it goes. Sometimes you start something, life comes in between. Long story short, in between my master's studies, I actually did fall in love with a lady, got married, and I had kids. So that kind of, made the whole process just a little bit longer. But then I didn't forget the initial motivation that brought me here, because I really wanted to complete my master's program. Even though my getting married and having a kid at the time kind of made the whole study program a little bit very stressful, I still completed it, because I didn't want to abandon this study. I had put in a lot at the time. I was just in my final semesters. I finally was able to turn in my final project and completed the program, and I was so excited. At this point, I felt like the main reason why I came to Germany had been achieved, which was to come here and get a master's degree and possibly, get a job. But this time, I was really hell-bent, on just staying in Germany. I had my options open. I was thinking about Canada, because a lot of people that came here to study with me, some of them were Indians, there were other Africans. A lot of them did go back to their country. Most of the Indians went back. Some of the few Africans left. Some went to the UK. And 2 or 3 of them went to Canada. People just naturally disappeared like that. And I kind of stayed here, basically because of the following reasons, which I'm going to be discussing in this video. First of all, talking about the quality of life right here in Germany. See, I've been to so many European countries. I've been to Poland, I've been to Czech Republic, I've been to Italy, I've been to Croatia. Guys, I can tell you for free that the quality of life right here in Germany is the best, hands down. I'm not going to say that yes, it's just the best. All right, you're talking about clean cities, the public transport system, the healthcare system, everything pretty much works right here. You see, I've lived in so many cities in Germany also. I've lived in Tübingen, I've been to Stuttgart, Frankfurt, Munich. See, name it. The quality is pretty much the same. Germany has this kind of standard that whatever happens in a particular city, you tend to see it across every other city. The cities are clean. I've been to Bremerhaven, to Hamburg, to Berlin. The cities is almost just that somebody came and gave a rule that, look, this is how we are going to do all these things. This is how the healthcare system is going to work. This is how the educational system is going to work. The standard is pretty much the same. It doesn't matter where you are. And I've been able to compare this standard, to what happens in Poland, to what happens in Czech Republic, and even Italy. I can see a very major difference. So one of the reasons why I really felt like, you know what, I'm just going to, kind of sit back here and try to figure it out here was that I felt like the quality of life was just what I needed. Security wise, I'm not going to say that there are no crimes here and there, but give and take to a very large degree, you pretty much do not hear this kind of, crimes that you tend to hear in other countries like the UK, in America. Things are pretty chill here. It's so chill to the point that you might even want to call it a little bit boring because you pretty much do not see people just, fighting carelessly on the street, somebody drunk and throwing bottles or just making some kind of, loud noise as to disturb the next person. The quality of life here, guys, it's excellent. Like I said, give and take. I've heard in the news some crimes here and there from youth, perhaps people fighting. But this is nothing when you compare it to what you get in countries like in the UK, where you turn on the news, you either hear somebody stabbing somebody, somebody was in a train, stole somebody's phone, somebody was attacked. This kind of news, I do not hear it here, and I have not even witnessed it. Even with the few I have had, I haven't actually witnessed any myself. So the quality of life here is just excellent, and was one of the reasons why I did decide to stay back. And then talking about another reason, travel opportunities. If you live in Germany, it's very easy for you to travel around European countries. Germany, like I said, they have this excellent, transport system. They have connecting trains to almost every other, European country. If you want to go to Prague, which is in Czech Republic, you want to go to Italy, you want to go to France, you want to go to Poland, there is almost certainly a train that's going to leave. If you live in a big city like Munich, there's going to be a train that's going to leave Munich and take you directly to where you are going. Of course, you may have to have one or two changes here and there, but then you would not have a problem, connecting the city that you want to go to. And if you decide to go by flight, it's the same thing. There's almost every flight connecting every European city. You might be wondering now, yes, there's a train, there's a flight. What about buses or what about cars? Yes, there's a bus that connects almost every big city, from Germany here. From Munich, you could easily get a bus going to Poland. You could get a bus going to Italy. You could get a bus directly going to France. And the list just goes on and on and on. And even there was this thing that used to be, I wouldn't know if it's still on right now. It's called Mitfahrgelegenheit. If you translate it to English, it's just like you have the possibility to travel with somebody. Let's say somebody is going to Poland now, and the person makes an offer that, look, I'll be traveling to Poland tomorrow. If you like to be part of the trip, you may have to pay 40 euros and you hop along and you will be part of this, trip. This was very big in Germany back then, and even till now, I believe it's still much, a practice. So even if you do not want to travel with the public transport system, there is always going to be, a private offer that's going to take you to wherever you are going. So many times I had to travel to Poland. I had to actually use this service, and it was very cheap. For about 30 or 40 euros, 7 or 8 hours later, I was already in Poland. This is beautiful. And because I saw the advantages of these connections, I felt like this is a place I want to stay. You might be living in a place like Italy or Poland. I'm not so sure if this is the case. I wouldn't know if there is a connecting flight or a connecting train from Poland to every other part of Europe. I'm not so sure. If somebody knows about that, please go to the comment section. Let me know about this. But then, this was one of the reasons I also considered to stay back. And up till now, almost 14 years later, I haven't regretted the decision to stay back in Germany. Another reason I did consider to stay here is that because I lived in Munich at the time, it was very international. You see, you could see Germans on the street, you could see people from Africa, you could see people from, from America, from the UK. It was not a city that was just closed, because sometimes if you live in a city and you feel like you are the only black person living there, I don't think you're going to be comfortable for a very long time. But then if you go to Munich, you are going to see all manner of people there. You're going to see Indians, you're going to see people from Pakistan, people from Israel, from America, like I said, from everywhere. And this just makes it very interesting. It makes it very beautiful. And if you are going on the street, you also have the opportunity to actually see somebody that is from your country and even your city. So once in a while, you see somebody on the street and you just have to speak your mother language to say hello or good morning. It's a beautiful thing. And then you do not feel alone. You do not feel isolated. You feel like you are part of a broader, diverse community. And this kind of helps you psychologically. And when I went to Berlin, the same thing was true in Berlin. You could see Africans on the streets, on the supermarkets. You go into a boutique to try to buy some clothes. You see Africans there. You see people from India. When I was in Frankfurt, it was also the same thing. So the diverse nature of the country also encouraged me to want to stay back. And believe me, guys, it's beautiful to have this feeling that you are not alone here. You see people from your motherland. It gives you hope that you are not here like somebody that is lost. And now it's even more easier to interact with people, because a lot of people tend to speak English. Gone are the days where if you didn't know a word or two in German, it would have been very difficult for you to adapt. But right now, if you go onto the street, it's almost certain that everybody you see might not be speaking the best of English, but will be able to say at least one word in English. So if you say, please, I do not understand German, could you please help me? I'm going to so and so place. Somebody will be able to direct you somehow, which is kind of interesting. If you live in a country where you don't know if the person on the street understands what you are saying, it could be very risky, it could be fun, and if you are not careful, you might be feeling isolated at some point. I have experienced this when I went to Poland. Not everybody speaks English, and sometimes when you walk to the supermarket to just want to buy one or two things, most of the items are not translated in English, which kind of makes it difficult. So you just have to keep guessing here and there. But in Germany, you pretty much see a lot of stuff written in English and also in German. Even then, you even get to see some descriptions, written in other languages, just because they know that, look, in Germany, a lot of people live here. They actually do go ahead to make sure that everybody is able to be understood, which I find to be very, very encouraging. And also, so today I have two kids and they did go through the kindergarten here, and right now my first son is in the 5th class and my second son is just in the 1st class. Education here is pretty much free. See, if you go to some countries like in the US, to get the same quality of education that you get right here in Germany, you might have to pay quite a lot. The same thing goes for the university system. As a matter of fact, the very reason that encouraged me to come to Germany was because it wasn't as expensive as other countries like America or Canada was asking for. A master's degree at the time, if I remember correctly, I was paying about 200 euros every semester, for my tuition fee. Every other thing was pretty much free. And even these 200 euros, you already had your train ticket included. You had the use of the library facilities included, internet, even printing out documents, everything was included. So this 200 euros was pretty much just like a symbolic amount, because what we did get, having paid that 200 euros, was just not commensurate to the 200 euros that we paid. You see, go to other countries like America, Canada, people actually do pay through their nose. Go to the neighboring countries here in the UK, getting a master's degree for free is just not possible. I wouldn't know if there are public universities there, but then the quality that you get is not just comparable. The Technical University of Munich is an international university. Even then, it's almost free to study there. This is beautiful. And then if you go to the schools, everything is pretty much free. You do not have this tuition fee that you tend to see in some other countries. Everything is free. It's the right of every child here to have, an excellent basic education. And the German government actually sees to it that the standard is the same all around. This was a very major determination for me to stay. I didn't want to go and start to experiment with other countries. I felt like I had already gone through the university system here, and I could pretty much tell that, look, if in the universities the standard is like this, what do you expect of the foundational levels? And when my son did started going to the schools, I could see that, guys, the German educational system is very thorough. Of course, some people complain that it's a little bit complicated, which I also find it to be just a little bit. But I'm going to be talking about that in a separate video. But talking about the fact that the quality that you get for pretty much free, this is amazing. It was a major reason I considered. I felt like my kids needed to have, the best education that's possible. Why not squeezing out the last money I have from my pocket to just achieve that? And right now, everything is pretty much going on autopilot. The kids are having fun at school. And you do not have these obnoxious charges coming from here, right or left. Once in a while, the kids have to go for some trips. The last time my son went to a trip, we had to pay about 180 euros or something like that. But that was for a 2 or 3 days trip, all right? It included transportation, the recreational activities they're going to be involved in, feeding and stuffs like that, all right? That is just, nothing compared to the quality that you get. So that was a major factor for me. So staying back in Germany, because of the fact that the education here was high quality and very affordable, was one good decision I did make at the time. And then this video will not be complete if I would not address, the elephant in the room, talking about job opportunities. Yes, the videos I saw on YouTube, a lot of people complained more of the fact that they couldn't find jobs. It was difficult to find a job that was at par with what they had studied, basically because of the language problem. Yes, it's a thing. Like I said in the previous video, yes, learning the language might be a little bit difficult. If you do not have it, you are definitely going to be struggling for the very few jobs left that do not require a very strong command of the German language. Yes, even though it's kind of difficult to get jobs, especially if you do not speak German or if your German is not good enough. You see, the job market here in Germany is still not saturated. There are countries of the world where you go to school, you complete your master's program, it's still difficult to get a job because there are just no jobs. Companies are not employing. But so far, until last 2 or 3 years, the German economy has been very, very strong. Companies were recruiting right, left, and center. If you had good language skills, it wasn't a problem to actually, get a job. So at the time when I finished my studies, the market wasn't as bad as it is right now. So the consideration for me to leave because I didn't find a job wasn't really there. I knew that if I was to put in the effort that was necessary, I will be able to find a job. It might not be the best job or the job I would have loved to have, but definitely I will be able to find something to keep myself, to keep my family, and then use it as an opportunity to get experience, to then search for the best job. All right. So this wasn't a consideration for me. I didn't really think about that, but quite recently, I hear people complaining that the job market is very bad, which I have also kind of experienced because right now things are pretty much shifting. There are more demands for, IT professionals, engineers, people that can work in the care sector and with kids. This is pretty much where the economy is shifting to right now. So I wouldn't know exactly what the current situation is right now. It's something I still have to research. And as soon as I can have my findings right, I'll also come here to tell you guys. But that being said, in Germany, there's always going to be that opportunity for you if you are a skilled professional, if you're an IT engineer, a medical doctor, a researcher, somebody that has the motivation to want to, do stuff. There's always going to be an opportunity for you. And that opportunity was what I saw. And I felt like, I am going to stay back here and use the opportunities I have, to better my future. And the last thing I did consider in deciding to stay in Germany was the fact that in Germany, I could actually go ahead and learn the language because I always wanted to have another language I would be able to speak fluently apart from English, all right? So I felt like if I go to Canada or the US or the UK, it's going to be the same thing. I'm just going to be able to speak English and nothing more. So given the fact that I have the opportunity here to learn how to speak German, it was something I wanted to take advantage of because the more I was able to stay here, the more I was able to interact with the system, the more I was actually forced to learn the language. I wouldn't say my German is the best today, but it's definitely better than what it was 5, 6, 7, 8, up to 10 years ago. All right. And this is just another opportunity for you. If you know how to speak a certain language, it has a way of opening opportunities that you might not even be aware exist today. So I learned the language and I still keep learning it. And every day I just keep getting better at learning the language. Truth be said, learning German is not the easiest thing because the grammar is a little bit on the other side. So if you are coming from an English-speaking country, you might be having a very, major difficulty in turning something in your head to kind of place the verb where it should be, and it could be a little bit tricky. But then the opportunity to learn this language is here. If you decide to learn it while going to a language school, there is an opportunity for you to do that. And if you even decide to just learn it like that without having to go through a formal school, you can actually, interact with people. There are a lot of cultural festivals. There are a lot of language exchange meetup groups that you can be part of to just ensure that you practice your German. And I saw that it was a very big opportunity for me. Today, I can actually communicate with my kids in German. I can also communicate with my wife in German, and this is a beautiful opportunity. I'm so happy that I was able to, stay back to learn this language. Like I said, my German is not at the best, but I already have a very solid foundation. And if I decide to even learn the language further to C1 level, if I have the time, I can actually, do it. So these are the few points for me considering to stay back in Germany. This decision has changed my life, and I can say I'm so grateful that I made this decision back then. Let me know in the comment section. Are you deciding to stay in Germany? Are you deciding to go back to your country? If then, what are the reasons that made you, decide to stay or not to stay? Until I see you again in the next video, have a beautiful afternoon.